Hello art students. Today we're going to be making our own snowy day scene inspired by Ezra Jack Keats' book, The Snowy Day. We will be using 2 pieces of paper today, but for now we'll just get started with 1. We will also be using some watercolor paints, and you'll also need a cup of water and a brush. Now, if any of you are working at home without a set of watercolor paints, the good news is we're just using the blue, and so you can actually get the same effect that we're doing with a blue marker, and I'll even demonstrate that a little bit during the demonstration. So first thing we want to do is we're going to fill our entire page with just water. Just take that wet brush and just get your paper nice and wet. Okay. Now, I would advise covering the whole sheet of paper, but because I'm going to do some of this video in time lapse, I'm just going to show you the technique here in a little corner first. So I got the paper nice and wet. Then I'm going to add some water to my paint. Dip, touch, dip, touch. Okay, my paint is good and wet, and my paper should be good and wet. And what I want to do is I'm not trying to cover the whole sheet of paper blue. Instead, what I want is, if you ever look at the snow, especially depending on what the lighting is like, sometimes the snow can cast shadows in what look like different shades of blue, and this just adds a little bit of texture to it. Okay, so basically what we're going to be creating here is a snowy background, but the blue helps to make it look more interesting, so it's not just white. So I'm going to do the rest of that in a time lapse. Okay, now I've covered most of my paper, and this is the look that I want it to have. I want it to be mostly white with little splotches of blue in between. The more wet your paper is, the more that blue will naturally spread, and it gives you just a little more variety and a little more unpredictability, which I really like. Now I left this corner blank because at the start of the video I had mentioned if you didn't have blue paint, you can do this with a marker, and I'll just kind of show you what I mean. If you just take a blue marker and just kind of randomly apply some splotches on the dry paper, then you can still add water to that, and I'm just kind of dabbing it in there, and you can get it to spread. I'm going to go a little darker with that blue so it shows up better. Okay, so some water on top there. You just kind of can make it move around. If you don't have a brush, it's possible to do it with your finger. Of course, that creates a little bit of a mess. Just wanted you to know that you do have options for how you do that. My preference is, though, to do it with the watercolor paints, a cup of water, and a brush. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you get started on this step of the project. Remember, get your paper wet first, then add little dabs of paint. This isn't painting like how we normally do where you go side to side. Instead, I'm just kind of dotting up and down, okay? Because I want to keep a lot of that white there so that it truly looks like snow when it dries. At this point, you may pause the video so that you can paint the blue dots for your snow background. All right, for this next part of the project, we want to let this piece of paper dry because we'll actually be using that tomorrow. So you'd want to set this in a place where you can keep it and come back to it tomorrow. We're just going to let that dry. And make sure I'm working in a nice, clean section on my table and dry, and I'll get out a new piece of paper. I can also get these tools out of the way. Okay, at this point I'm just working with a drawing tool. Now, I should say, I probably should have said this in the first step, but we can be flexible. It would be a good idea to put your name somewhere on that piece of paper. So I'll just put it right up in the corner. Mr. A. Okay, and then I can get it out of the way and let it dry. Then I'll come in here with a brand new piece of paper. I'm also going to put my name in that, Mr. A. You would put your name on it. That way when we hand these back to you tomorrow, you can get what you need. So we've created snow for our snowy day scene. The next thing we need to do is we need to create some of the people that are playing in the snow. And if you wanted to, you could even add other things like trees or snowmen. I'm going to be drawing my characters and details using shapes so that we don't have stick figures. And I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so just to review what we've done so far, of course, that background that I painted is just drying off to the side. On this fresh sheet of paper, I've drawn a few characters. Now, as I was drawing this, some of you were probably thinking, what's going on? We've got some people facing this way, some people facing that way. Well, what we're actually going to do with these tomorrow is we're going to cut all these characters out with scissors and we're going to glue them into our snowy background. So I just drew the characters in there however they were able to fit. Now you are going to get a little bit of time to draw your own people that will go in this setting. I drew 3 things, basically. There's also this pile of snowballs, but that goes with the girl who's throwing the snowball. So I want you to make sure your scene has at least 3 things in it. And if you look at it, that uses up a good amount of my paper. I could probably fit 1 or 2 things more in here. But if you draw 3 teeny tiny things, you'll have to draw a little bit more. So 3 things, 3 things that are about the size of the palm of my hand. And you can use that as a guide for how big you should draw the characters that go in your scene. Okay, good luck drawing your characters. Bye. At this point, students may take a new white sheet of paper and start drawing the characters that will go into their scene. When students are done drawing this section in pencil, then students are done for the day. Tomorrow, we will color these characters in, and we will cut them out and glue them into our snowy scene. The final step for today's project is that students should take their 2 pieces of paper, which would be their snowy background and then their characters. They're going to take those 2 pieces of paper and set them somewhere safe where they can remember to use them for class tomorrow so that we can finish up our snowy day scene with color and with people playing in the snow. I'm really excited to see how these turn out today, and I'm even more excited to see how we finish these up tomorrow. Thank you.